Protests erupt in Minneapolis over deadly ICE shooting.
Now, last hour, that was not the case. Many of these protesters were actually in the street blocking, or at the very least confronting, vehicles.
The title says 1,000+ protests nationwide after ICE shooting in MN.
That were either coming out or into that federal facility. And you see sort of the law enforcement officers strategizing. They do seem to be going back at this point. Not sure the exact strategy, but you see them now retreating back. A big law enforcement presence. But again, as they swelled quickly, they seem to be shrinking back, but a show of force, no doubt, that these protesters do not seem to be intimidated for whatever reason. They are still yelling. They've gotten even louder. And so this just represents, I think, a little bit of the anger that we've seen in various parts of the Minneapolis area over the last few days since the day of the shooting, Fred.
And of course, we're not hearing the dialogue from the federal law enforcement there or any representation from, but just as you described, seeing them.
Well, protesting is your right, and if you think that the government is doing something wrong, this is the correct way to express it. Go out there and protest peacefully.
Shrinking back. I wonder if that is simply representative of an attempt to de-escalate what is a very heightened tension.
Well, we have to understand, why are you protesting? Are you protesting because the government is doing something wrong, or are you protesting because you don't agree what the people voted for and your family members being deported because they are illegal? If the latter is the case, then you shouldn't be protesting because you're just a moron and you're an idiot. So you need to just go the fuck home.
Moment here.
It really is. I think it's hard to know their exact strategy, but depending on the jurisdictions.
I'm always drinking coffee. I love coffee. French vanilla creamer. That's how I get down.
For example, I'll compare what we just saw there with what we saw last night with local law enforcement out in the streets of downtown Minneapolis, where there was not a police presence at all, it seemed like, for portions of the protest. And then all of a sudden, we couldn't really look anywhere without seeing law enforcement at the state and local level as well. So it was a little bit of a similar strategy here. And now you sort of see what has become the standard protection here at this point, federal protective.
That is the first time ever that I've seen a liberal protest with American flags. That is rare. Usually they associate, the American flag with the Republicans, and they don't like to wave it around. So
service
that's
police
refreshing. I'm
sort of
glad
guarding
there's
this
been a little
entrance.
bit of change.
But prior to this,
and
when these vehicles were coming in and out of this federal facility,
because they are,
there was
citizens
not
of
any
America.
Visible security presence, at least to what we're seeing right now. Now, it does seem that tempers have calmed a little bit, but as soon as they left, you see people are now getting right back into the street as well, and some of that similar posturing that we saw before federal law enforcement sort of had that show of force. So this is something, again,
the fact that you can do this in America, or in the United States, just shows how great of a country we are. A lot of other countries wouldn't allow you to do this. They wouldn't allow you to go right up against the government. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful liberty that we have. And make sure that when you're expressing it within the confinements of not, disrupting other civilians that don't want to have anything to do with your protest because they don't have the same beliefs as you. So don't be crowding the streets, and don't be a nuisance to them. It's called peaceful protesting, and that is your right. It's not your right to just be a nuisance to everyone around you.
We've seen flare-ups here come in and out over the course of the day at various portions of entrances to this federal building. There was one that even a few days ago forced us to have to run because of an agent sprinting into the crowd to sort of arrest people. We haven't seen that here, but that's sort of the range of what we've seen. Crowd repellent used at points, pepper balls, and what protesters have done is at the most we've seen is throw snowballs as well. So that's kind of what we've been seeing here.
Quite silly.
Sometimes honk in support.
Yeah.
I'll go
interesting
go,
moment, yet
get in a
still very
snowball fight
tense
with them.
moment. Omar Jimenez will check back with you there outside
Sounds
that federal
quite fun.
building in the Minneapolis area. Thank you.
They could have the
Hundreds
biggest snowball
of protests
fight
are
in
underway
America right
or
now.
planned nationwide today in response to the deadly
Nationwide protests planned after deadly Minneapolis shooting. Where were these protests planned? Was it Twitter? Was it X? I didn't see any
shooting
of them
of
planned.
Renee Good by an ICE
Was it
agent.
Instagram, Facebook?
Protests are already happening at a federal building near Minneapolis, where some ICE detainees have been held.
A lot of the people going to these protests are just purely bored. They have nothing better to do with their life. So what they're going to do is they're just going to head over and they're going to go for a nice walk and chant some chants, and they're going to feel like they are a part of something and their life has purpose. And we have to realize they are literally doing it because a lot of them are literally doing it because they are bored and they have nothing else to be a part of.
And overnight, hundreds of demonstrators gathered outside a hotel they believe was housing federal agents. Police declared an unlawful assembly and arrested more than 24 people. And today, the mayor of Minneapolis urged demonstrators to keep the protests peaceful and warned that those who don't will be held accountable.
The vast majority of people have protested peacefully. To the few that have caused damage to property and or harm to...
At what point does a protest actually become successful? So your goal with a protest is to get as many people involved as possible. It's a show of force. Now, you're not actually supposed to use the force, but the idea is that if you get all of America or all of the United States out onto the streets and they're all protesting in unison, you know, the military, the government will say, holy shit, we fucked up. We got to change something because these guys have guns. And if we choose not to change it, even though they are all on the streets, they're going to come and kill us. They are going to rebel. So that's pretty much what protesting is for. And the reason the government allows you to do it peacefully is because it's a good gauge on how they're actually doing, how the people feel about them. And why would you not want your people to protest?
Others need to be very clear, we're not going to let that happen. You cause damage to property, or put
Unless
others
they're
in
going to
danger,
do damage, of course.
you're going to be arrested. We are a safe city. We will not counter Donald Trump's chaos with our own brand of chaos here.
CNN's Omar Jimenez is joining us now from outside that federal building near Minneapolis. Omar, tell us what's happening there.
Yeah, so we're here at what is really a small protest at the moment, but this has really been where a lot of the protests have happened over the course of the past few days since Renee Good was shot and killed. What you're seeing right now is it seems like a group of people walked up to sort of the entrance to this federal facility, and they're speaking to some federal agents.
Holy shit, it's January 6th, 2.0.
Kind of what's happening is every time agents pull out, as you're seeing here, protesters get especially
going into
angry,
a federal building,
yell at the
guys.
vehicles as they're leaving this particular area. You see how close they're getting actually as these vehicles are pulling out. And that has sort of been what we have seen at least today, and pretty similar to what we've seen over the past few days. Now, I will say that just by sheer numbers, what we're seeing at the moment is a little bit lighter than what we had previously seen. But earlier today, we had 3 members of Congress, including Congresswoman
dude.
Ilhan Omar, who represents the Minneapolis.
And that's exactly what protesting is about. That exact show of force right there. It's about everyone hitting the streets and saying, hey, you keep fucking around and something's going to fucking go down. It's going to be all of us against all of you. And the thing is, if you kill all your civilians, you no longer have a country. So really, I mean, hey, I don't think that's that big of a protest. I know it looks a lot bigger in this picture, but I mean, I think that's maybe half of a stadium worth of people, if not less. So again, this isn't like every American is hitting the streets and protesting. So although this is showing how the problem is escalating and the process of this protest is ramping up, really, BLM was a lot worse than this. And I don't think this is going to get as bad as BLM. I think a lot of people learned their lesson with the BLM and realized that they were idiots for doing that protest. So I don't think they're going to repeat them themselves by just virtue signaling with this ICE bullshit again.
Area tried to come and do an oversight visit here to this federal facility, and They said they were let in, but only briefly, because not long after they received notification that they had to leave. But they said that they observed 20 detainees there, as they described it. And so that just adds to a little bit of the back and
I cannot for the life of me understand why people are sitting there and they're shitting on ICE unless they are just so belligerent to come to terms with the fact that they don't give a fuck about law and order whatsoever, and these people just want to be able to break the law, and nothing happened. And these people came into the country illegally. So we're going to legally take them out. It is in our right to take them out of the country. It's what we voted for. It's why we wanted Trump into office. So to see these people all protesting the streets, not really because this chick died. They don't really care about this woman. They just wanted something bad to happen that ICE did. So they had a reason to go out there and say, guys, look how evil ICE is. Look how bad ICE is. We have to stop them. And that's exactly what we're seeing. And honestly, these people are disrespecting that woman, Renee, the same way BLM disrespected George Floyd. They just used that person as a martyr to push their agenda. This really has nothing to do with the death of the person.
Forth that we've seen here. Again, you have members of Congress coming in here trying to do some of that oversight. They say they weren't allowed to do so in the way that they deemed appropriate. Fred.
And then what about last night? What are officials saying about the protests that have continued?
Yeah, I mean, we've been seeing protests pop up in places all across the Minneapolis area. So you have this one outside this federal building, as you see them still shouting as vehicles come in and out. But last night we were in downtown Minneapolis, and that's where we saw firsthand hundreds of protesters in the streets marching, centering on hotels where they believed federal agents may have been staying at points. And there was a point when we were out there, we didn't see any law enforcement as they were sort of banging on drums, singing, blowing whistles, and then they showed up almost all at once. And so the police chief in Minneapolis was asked about that dynamic today. Take a listen to what he said.
What you saw last night was a disciplined and restrained response. I think it was highly professional, and I'm thankful for the members of the community who understand our need to keep things peaceful, and I'm thankful for those officials and others that are continuing to call for peaceful protest and assembly.
And to that point, while there was damage done to some property, as we understand from police, it really wasn't until law enforcement then showed up, what seemed like all at once, not only Minneapolis police, but state police, even Department of Natural Resources, as was described as well. And they made 29 arrests, but not before making multiple warnings that we heard over the loudspeaker ourselves.
ICE out, ICE get the fuck out, ICE out, fuck ICE. Guys, why are you hating on ICE? Why? There are people that are breaking the law to get into this country. We have a process for them to come into this country legally. And if they came into the country illegally, they should be deported. Now, just because this country was founded on immigrants 250 years ago, that doesn't mean we have to have open borders and have shit immigration policy. What is the problem with Democrats and liberals and ICE? I don't quite understand it. Are they fucking retarded? Are they that retarded that they cannot grasp the idea that we must have borders? We can't just have anybody coming over into our country without knowing their background. We can't have criminals just committing crimes in fucking Colombia and then making their way over to the U.S. and getting away scot-free. That is not how our country can operate or should operate.
Unlawful assembly. And so the mayor is encouraging more peaceful protests. But as we understand, over the course of today, there will be a number of protests in the Minneapolis area, channeling that same anger we've seen since the day of the shooting, and even before that, wanting federal immigration enforcement agents out of Minneapolis. Fred.
Yes, and in that area as well as across the country, there are people who are gathering for what many...
These are federal agents, guys. They work for the safety of you. They work for the safety of I. This is not our enemy. Our enemy is not federal agents. We love our federal agents.
They're calling a weekend of action. Omar Jimenez will check back with you there in the Minneapolis area. All right, more than 1,000 protests are expected this weekend nationwide as folks are rallying against ICE in their communities. A coalition of advocacy groups coordinated the ICE Out for Good events in response to both the fatal shooting of Renee Good and the quote,
it's just a
pattern
Democratic
of
march.
unchecked
Can we
violence in marginalized communities, end quote.
Can we just be honest and say this is basically just Democrats trying to leech on to anything they possibly can in order to say, hey, 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 ha, 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 Trump was not a good candidate to be elected, even though Donald Trump has been doing a great job. These people, they hate that they have been proven wrong. They hate that Trump got into office and has only done great things. So they're going to hit the streets. They're going to latch on to whatever they can in order to make themselves look as good as possible. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're just trying to find anything that they can to make themselves look good. The Democratic Party is honestly
CNN's Camila DeChalis is joining me right now from outside the White House. Very rainy Washington, D.C. there, but it doesn't appear to be much of a deterrent for a lot of people who have gathered. What's happening?
That's right. We're outside in D.C. We're walking with protesters. I spent just a few hours just talking to some of the protesters that came out here today, and a lot of them said that despite the weather, it was very important for them to come out, show their support of this protest, and most importantly, send a message that what just transpired in Minneapolis with an ICE agent shooting and killing Renee Good is unacceptable. Now, I talked to some protesters, one of which was actually even from Minnesota, and he said simply that he was shocked when he heard the news. Now, I asked other protesters that came out in attendance today what their thoughts is and what do they want lawmakers to do in light of what just happened. And they said something pretty notable. They said that what they witnessed in these past few months since President Trump has came into office, they say that they really do think that lawmakers need to do more and implement more reforms when it comes to federal agencies that handle law enforcement. And they think that this really, what just happened, has really shown a light that it's more important now than ever for members of Congress, not just Democrats, but Republicans as well, to band together now and implement more.
Look, what this protest is really, it's a bunch of liberals crying that they didn't get their way and ICE is in their city. They're not trying to reform shit. All they're trying to do is bitch, cry, complain, moan, hit the streets, bitch, cry, complain, moan, hit the streets, bitch, cry, complain, and moan.
When it comes to federal agencies that play a big role in what's happening in this country right now.
The Republicans are just spineless. They're kowtowing to Trump, and I don't understand why. He's out of control, and
bitch, cry,
we need
complain,
to
moan.
put these
Bitch,
agencies.
cry, complain,
I mean, Kristi
moan.
Noem needs to be chucked, and everybody needs to be. There needs to be some control and some rules and the rule of law. They need.
Bitch. We have control, we have rules, and we have law. We voted for this, and we have the agents going in and deporting the people that are in here illegally breaking the law. And you're trying to keep the people that are breaking the law and here illegally in here. Oh my God.
To listen to the courts.
Can't make this shit up.
Now, as you can see, there's more people that are joining this protest now.
ICE must go, the whole Trump, oh my God.
And a lot of them are holding up signs saying...
This type of dumbass rhetoric is exactly probably why we saw 2 failed assassination attempts on Trump. Now, I don't know if that's actually the case, because, I mean, they could have been other countries sending out hits like Iran. But I will say some of the retards doing the assassinations just seem like liberals.
August must go, saying that President Trump himself must go, and a lot of them feel that attending this protest today is really sending a clear message, not just in Washington, but across the country where these protests are happening, that what has happened is unacceptable and that they will no longer really stand by and just witness what is happening, that they really want to feel that they are taking a movement, joining a movement to really spark change.
All right.
Yeah, they're joining a movement to really spark change in their boring, pitiful lives because they have nothing better to do other than bitch, cry, complain, and moan.